Broadcasting from the Gaylord Rockies Resort in Denver, Colorado, Solutions Review is on location at Commvault GO 2019. Brought to you by Commvault.
Hey, it's Doug Atkinson back here on the floor of the Commvault GO 19 village that has customers, partners, Commvault executives. We're fortunate right now to be joined by a customer, Tim Carben, Principal Information Systems Engineer.
There we go.
Got that.
Perfect.
From Mitchell International.
That's correct.
Thanks for being here and making some time for us. I know
thanks for
you're
having me.
a busy guy, and I'm not surprised because there's a lot going on.
There is.
So we love talking to customers because our audience is chiefly folks who are thinking about purchasing these types of solutions. Commvault being, certainly at the high end of their space. You've been working with Commvault. I guess you inherited Commvault
Yes.
at Mitchell. Tell me a little bit about how you got into working with Commvault and a little bit of your experience so far.
I was introduced to Commvault after 7 years of TSM administration. I got hired onto a company at the tail end of their TSM to Commvault migration, and I was sold. The first time I used Commvault, I realized how much easier it is to use and how much more robust it is with certain products than TSM had been. I didn't have to worry about VSS calls into Exchange. I didn't have to worry about a lot of those specifics that you'd have issues with TSM. So that's how I got into it, and it's 7 years later with Commvault. And to be honest, especially with everything I've seen in the past few years and today, I'm excited about the direction they're going.
Well, and there's a lot of announcements been happening here in Denver about where they're headed, and they've announced a new SaaS product, Metallic, and they were just in a major acquisition earlier in the year. What do you find with an event like this? What do you find that you are gravitating toward in terms of learning or hearing about other offerings?
This is my opportunity to learn. I get to talk to industry experts, people who have been working with this longer than I have, and people who are focused on different directions or technologies, I guess I should say. So it's a great opportunity to learn what I can look at, what I can do to optimize my investment in Commvault. And not only that, but it gives me an opportunity to see the direction that the company's going and really what they're putting focus on.
And there's no doubt and like I said, there's a lot of announcements happening. I'm curious, for our audience anyway, what kind of advice you would be offering for folks who are thinking about Commvault or just thinking about a solution that has that type of capability? Where would you guide them?
My biggest piece of advice is to research. I don't stop. I know one of the Commvault salespeople caught me in the gym downstairs wearing a Rubrik shirt. It's because I talk to everyone and I learn about what they're doing. I've got a meeting with Veritas next week, but I agree with Forrester. Commvault is doing the most in data protection right now. And for that reason, I'm sticking with them.
So you're a practitioner. You're in the mix of the daily activity with regard to data protection and backup. What are you seeing in terms of the evolution? What kind of predictions would you be making in 2020 as you see the industry moving? I mean, what keeps you up at night?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that last question was a little loaded.
What keeps me up at night is making sure that I'm doing everything to take care of the company that I'm working for. Making sure that we are protected. I know that in the next few years we will have the California Data Protection Act coming through. We've got data centers in Canada, which means that there is going to be a GDPR up there. So I have to make sure that I'm ahead of everything. I want to make sure that I'm ahead and ready to move forward when all of that happens. Not only that, when we start looking a little bit further in the future, and right before I came up here, I was over there talking with the Hedvig guys.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting what they're planning on doing with data protection. and giving us the ability under Commvault to be able to not just backup, but recover our on-prem load into AWS, or move our AWS load into Azure, all natively. And it's a really exciting time to be part of data protection, because we see it going from something that we spend a lot of money on to something that's going to bring more value to the company. Rather than just focusing on data, we're focusing on data intelligence.
Well, that's interesting, because I think that's a shift we're also seeing in the market. Is it's not just about the point solution of let's back things up and protect our data, but let's think about how we might be able to. I mean, I know the term here is activate, because Commvault has an element called activate,
yes.
But really make that data actionable.
Oh yeah.
And then you're thinking about along those lines as well?
Oh, definitely. That's why we actually rolled out the SaaS model before Metallic.
Oh, is that right?
So we use that for our O365 environment.
Interesting.
And I made sure that when we put that in, we included the Activate. We included that piece that's going to allow us to step forward and be able to run full text index searching.
Right.
That is a mouthful. I apologize.
Yeah. No. So I'm curious about that. So you're using an O365 backup solution through Commvault.
Yes.
And that's because that certainly is something that they've highlighted, but it's also something that I think people are now beginning to come to, that they have probably not thought was a need necessarily.
And that's an important question. And if you talk to, AWS, if you talk to certain salespeople at Microsoft, they'll be like, we have your data protected.
Right, exactly.
And they're doing versioning, they're doing, geolocation, they're doing essentially snapshots, which we do in data centers right now. But what they're not doing is they're not doing an offsite copy. They're not doing what backup is. If someone were to gain access to your Azure portal, a rogue actor, a disgruntled employee, someone like that, they've got access to everything.
Right.
They can wipe out everything. They can even wipe out the Commvault app, but they don't wipe out your backups, because your backups are stored somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it's a very nuanced benefit to bringing in a Commvault to back up O365, and I think people, I don't think they have been aware of it, and it's interesting to hear you using it in a practical way like that. Well done.
I see it from the backup standpoint. What I've always done, just because you have RAID doesn't mean your data can't become corrupted. Just because you have versions in cloud doesn't mean that you're protected against corruption or certain things like that. You really want to make sure that if something as bad as a ransomware attack hits your O365 portal, that you can pull your data from somewhere else.
Yeah, excellent. Tim, that's great perspective. I'm glad you came by, because I know our audience will appreciate that type of perspective. Certainly, we would encourage you to check out all of the advice that we're getting through these videos, but thanks very much for offering yours.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.